How come 2Pac Shakur allowed Suge Knight to humiliate his brother Mopreme Shakur? Was 2Pac scared it might happen to him? And how come 2Pac wasn't his brother's keeper on that fateful day? The divide and conquer. Let's get into some of this straight game.
Yeah. Blackjack. Life is like a game of cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Yeah. Blackjack. To play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY, Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button notification. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Tell a friend, but most importantly, like I always say, if you're new to the channel and you want to be notified on time, or be one of the first people to be notified when I drop some of this straight game, please do me a favor and hit that bell notification right below this video. I'm going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, the divide and conquer of 2Pac Shakur. And you said, well, DELRAY, what do you mean? I want you to understand that when 2Pac went over to record under the Death Row banner, right? There was a process that was involved, if you will. And in that process involved getting 2Pac to alienate himself, or basically trying to take 2Pac away from the very people who loved him, who had his back, who were there from day one. Get him away from his A1s from day one, his brother Mopreme Shakur, other people like the brother Kendrick Wells, and all of the people who had been around 2Pac from the inception of his career. Now you got to understand, Mopreme Shakur was 2Pac's half brother. He's not really 2Pac's brother. That's Matulu Shakur's son, as well as Sechua's real brother. So, not even same father, different mother. It's just stepdad, so stepbrother. But Sechua is actually Afeni's daughter and 2Pac's real sister, having the same mother, right? So, Mopreme had been around day one. He's an A1 stepbrother, whole 9 yards. And then you have Kendrick Wells, who was from the Bay Area, you know what I mean? And what I want to talk about is this. So you got to understand, there was this situation in which Reggie Wright Jr. had came out and spoke about when they were in New York. And it was this thing that they had did to Mopreme as well as Kendrick, and basically bullying them and beating them up, right? Kendrick Wells actually copped to it and said, yeah, this happened. And, his whole thought and theory was, what was this about? You know what I mean? He didn't know what it was about. He didn't, remember doing anything foul or anything like that, right? And there's another incident in which they said that they locked Mopreme on a hotel balcony buck naked and had him throw snowballs or something like that. Something humiliating, if you will, right? And Reggie Wright had spoke about this. I want you to understand, what this process was and who these people are when you deal with individuals like that, right? That just bully people for no reason, but specifically in relation to 2Pac, right? And how when it really came down to it, they weren't there for 2Pac, right? Check it out. So now, the whole premise on them doing that to Kendrick Wells and Mopreme Shakur was to demonstrate to 2Pac that Mopreme and Kendrick Wells was somehow weak, right? And they didn't or couldn't really have 2Pac's back if anything happened, right? Well, we know for a fact that 2Pac really didn't need anybody to have his back, because anytime he was ever involved in an altercation or incident, he usually was strapped and he knew how to handle his own business, right? And that's what made him the alpha male in the situations or any situations that he was involved in, correct? So now, the reason for that was to humiliate Kendrick Wells and humiliate Mopreme Shakur enough to get Tupac to believe that coming over to the side of the people that Suge had around him, right, was the place that Tupac needed to be, because these are the people that are going to have your back, right? Now, Mopreme wasn't a gang member. I'm not sure if Kendrick Wells was a gang member, right? So the idea of that doesn't even make sense. And I don't even know why, because from what I understand, and I don't know if it's true, somehow, some way, Tupac sent Mopreme Shakur back home after that, right? So therein lies the divide, right? That's the divide. I got to get you away from the people who really care about you, who really know you, who you really familiar with, who been with you and grew up with you from day one, correct? Now, here comes the conquer. The conquer is now, we got Tupac. Now he's isolated, so much so that he can buy into this theory of now he's one of us, and so on and so forth. So now that begins that frame of mind and thinking of the invincibility that Tupac thought he had in doing the various things that he did. What's that, the Mark Bell situation, involving that, and just doing other various things to people and stuff like that would lead him down the path that would lead to the situation in Vegas involving Orlando Anderson, which was the wrong person to actually do something to like that. Check it out. So now, after I get you away from the people that love you, now you one of us. You know what I mean? And here comes the change of attitude. Here comes the change of the way you treat people. And you have various people said that, they didn't even recognize who Tupac was at that time because he had changed so much after he had got with Death Row from that perspective, right? So that was the thing that I think really hurt Tupac the most. Okay, so now what Tupac started to realize was, I think he probably sat back and thought about it like, damn, I'm here now with a bunch of strangers on an island full of strangers, if you will. And when he started to see the money, the success that he was having, it didn't equal up to the money that he was getting. And then I think he started to open his eyes. And Yasmin Fula was one of those people to get him to open his eyes. Like I said, she was one of the people, the only people that was around who really understand, loved, and cared for Tupac since he was a little boy. You understand what I'm saying? And she was the person that ultimately brung the idea to Tupac that, hey, something's wrong. There's a conflict of interest. Suge is your manager and you're signed to Death Row. You understand what I'm saying? So the conquer thing had already began to take place. You know what I mean? Even before all of the stuff with Mopreme had happened. But like I said, we still had to get these other people out of the way to really fully execute should I say, the process in which they were trying to carry out, if you will, right? And so, like I said, Yasmin was the one that was still around that could get into Tupac's ear and say, hey, this is not right, this is not right, and this is not right. You getting $5,000 a week, right? That's $20,000 a month. You got the Outlaws, you know what I mean? Everybody got their own situation. But then Tupac came to find out that he was being billed for everything. Then you go to Vegas, and we seen what happened in Vegas, right? Understanding that, the conquer has taken place, but Tupac has woken up, right? Getting to the real altercation with Orlando Anderson in them, right? Once again, the false sense of security that Tupac had, that, they got my back, it's all good, so on and so forth, right? Not understanding that Tupac is not even supposed to be involved in any situation like this had he had real security, right? Had he been in a real serious situation where he, as the asset, as the number one generating asset at that particular time, under Death Row, umbrella was not even supposed to be involved in something like that. But boom, once again, you go back into the situation with Mopreme, his own brother, his own stepbrother, should I say, right? And Kendrick Wells. Now, you got to say to yourself, well, if Tupac allowed that to happen to them, right? And he's believing now that the people that he's with or the situation he's in, he's protected, right? He feels a little bit more braver than he would in any other situation. Therefore, let me go and do what he did to Orlando. But once again, Orlando was the wrong guy to do that to. You understand what I'm saying? See, you can only do so many things to so many people before you run across the wrong person. You know, these are facts. Like I said, I love Tupac and you know, like I said, work with him and all of that. But I'm just going to speak factually about it. You know what I mean? You can only cross and disrespect so many people in regards to that. Even though the situation and the underlying situation was at hand from, you know, the hit 'em up, all of those things, whatever, all of that could have been resolved. But once you cross the line in dealing with the gang element, if you will, right? You know, Orlando never did anything to Tupac, right? Whatever else was going on was what was going on, if you will. You know what I mean? And Tupac wasn't supposed to be involved in that. But once he made that move, he had crossed the line. That's the time that he had crossed the line from being civilian, being artist, you know, and 2Pac Shakur and all of those other things. Now you're into the gang thing, right? And so you're in Vegas. The people who understand what that is should have known better. The security that was supposed to be there wasn't there based on the fact that Tupac had fired Reggie on the 27th of August. You know, he feeling some kind of way, right? He pulling security off of Tupac. Michael Moore, he's the only one with a gun. You know, and Michael Moore even said it that, you know, Reggie was trying to get him down to Club 662, right? And so now the people that allegedly beat up Mopreme, made him stand outside on the hotel balcony, beat up Kendrick Wells in the elevator, and so on and so forth, right? Are supposed to be the ones that have Tupac back, correct? So now, Tupac is shot, right? There you have it. The divide and conquer. And what I mean by that is you have to understand that everything that played a part in that situation, just like everything that played a part when Tupac got out of jail, the bail agreement, all of those things, right, led up to that situation. And it didn't have to happen like that. When you look at it, right? You know, Suge Knight had said something about, you know, in regards to Tupac now, you know, you in the gang thing now, you know what I mean? And how people get looked at versus the artist, and you coming and you crossing that line. You know, he was basically saying, like, you know, some people get killed and some people, you know, when you do that, right? It's just a different thing. Now you become a target, is what Suge had said, you know. And yeah. And that night in Vegas, that's what that was. But it was mainly in relation to and as a result of the divide and conquer. So would you say that Tupac was his brother's keeper at that particular time? Or was Tupac misled? Or Tupac did what Tupac wanted to do and what he thought was beneficial at that time for him? Your boy DELRAY, straight gang.